I was poor, or I'm gonna hop straight into it. But before I do so, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Alonza. How you doing? Today, I'm gonna start the video off with a confession. For the longest time growing up, I thought that my way of thinking was the only way of thinking. I thought that I knew everything. And what could you possibly tell someone who knows everything? The smartest guy in the room? Nothing. You can't tell them nothing because they'll always have a rebuttal to whatever you say, or they always have a witty comeback. But as I've matured and grown up, I've come to realize that my perception is just that. My perception is my reality, as is everyone else's. And this way of thinking would get me into more trouble than I could handle early on. And it's crazy because I've just recently figured out that everyone thinks in their own way. You may see a zebra and think, okay, it's white with black stripes. But I see a zebra that's black with white stripes. We're both correct. We just have a different perspective of what's in front of us. So why are we arguing over zebra stripes? Well, it's the need to feel right. It's innate for us to want to be right so bad that we're willing to argue over something that really doesn't even matter for the most part. But life is all about diversity, and I understand now that people think different for a reason, because if everyone thought the same, then why would life be special? You know? And as I continue to mature and age, I don't really have that desire to be right. Now it's more of, I want to hear what you think, but now I want to hear, why do you feel that way? And I'll tell you why I feel the way I do about whatever it is we're arguing about, whether it's the color of the clouds in the sky or even zebra stripes. Now, I've just discovered this personally, but I have a question for you. Do you know of anyone who just likes to argue just to argue, and they're never wrong? Even if you just say okay and take their side, they still try to argue off of the principle of the situation rather than just dropping it and leaving it alone. If you haven't guessed it by now, today's video is about perspective and perception. The half cup empty, half cup full. I want to talk about how I was able to make it work for me. Because growing up, it's easy to say, oh, I was poor or this or that. But the way I seen it as, okay, this is the perfect base for me to work from. I just seen it as, okay, because I start lower on the totem pole, I'm still on the totem pole. It's the top of it that I'll reach eventually, but I'm able to look up at my competition and I guess get a clearer view of what's going on above me. Whereas you could say, oh, I started in a low position, I'm poor, I can't do this and I can't do that. But when I switched that can't to can, everything started to, I guess, look up for me. Because when I left home originally, I said I can't be away from home for too long because I grew up in a tight-knit family and we haven't been over 5,000 miles away from each other before. So why can't I do it now? Well, I'll tell you why I can do it now. Because as I'm at the bottom of the totem pole, taking my notes of how I'm going to get here or how I'm going to get there, a lot of the times it came out of my mouth that in order to go up, I must first go away. Because what's going on around me, I'm not learning anything valuable. Not saying there is no value around me. I just knew that I had to switch my environment in order to go learn from people that has already been where I'm trying to get to, if that makes sense. I like to use different analogies to explain my life. That's my perception of the way I live. So I kind of view myself as this seed. And if you know anything about planting or having a garden, you know that whatever your packet says is that's what's supposed to grow. Now, the seed that I am, I didn't come in the packet. I'm just a seed. It's more about me trying to find a proper place to plant and cultivate the seed so I can bring value into the world from whatever this crop may bring, whether it's a apple tree that produces apples year round, or whether it's a potato and only one potato grows, or maybe it's a dead seed and I produce no value. But that's my perception. How do you view your life? Because ultimately your life is in your control. No matter what place you start off in the totem pole, you have the responsibility to change your position on this totem pole called life, or pyramid, or however you want to view it. I just use these different analogies so I can give life some flavor and some color, so I can have something to work off of in my head. Anytime I see someone successful, I get overwhelmed with this sense of, I guess, gratitude that I too can be in that position one day. I too can be a doctor. I could be a surgeon. I could be an anesthesiologist. You can be whatever you put your mind to. And since we like to deny, I'll be the first to admit that social media plays a huge impact on our perception of life, because most of our time is spent swiping up and down, and we're seeing the highlights of strangers' lives who we'll probably never see in real life. And notice I said we're seeing the highlights because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. It's like a movie. A movie doesn't show you the whole process. You only see the finished product on the main screen in the theaters. That's social media. Only the highlights, the best parts of the full recording, you know. And once we see these highlights, we get influenced to want to live what we see. And this in turn causes mimetic behavior. Mimetic behavior is the tendency to want to do what we see. And this may cause depression and anxiety because you feel like what you're doing now isn't good enough. When if you just took a step back and realized that the place you're in today, you should be thankful, because trust me when I say this, someone always has it worse. You may think you have it worse, but trust and believe someone always has it worse. And now I'll end with this. Let's try and be more thankful and have gratitude for what it is that we have today, because we're all only one bad day from losing it all tomorrow. Peace.